And now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We're live every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 27-year talk radio host, and I come to you live from Los Angeles, California every week. This show is about spirituality. It's about humanity. It's about creativity. It's about passion. It's about being your best you and then inspiring others to do the same in this big, beautiful world. And it may be my show, my friends, but every week it is most definitely your experience. My guest this week is a wonderfully talented actor, author, coach, speaker, spiritual practitioner, one of my favorite people in the world and a very dear friend. Please welcome the wonderful Dee Wallace. How are you, darling? It's good to see you.
I'm so fabulous. I can hardly stand it.
I'm so glad. Me too.
Why not, right?
Well, yes, right? You've only got so many days. Why not enjoy them?
Life's too long. Life's too long to be crummy.
It's funny because I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about how, while the last 2 years has been profoundly sad for many people, very difficult for many people, and now, war things on top of it. But for her, it's been a wonderful 2 years, and about how it's okay during a rough time in the world to still have your happiness every day, and you don't have to feel guilty about it, right?
Well, I think the point is that happiness is a choice. And if we are relying on things outside of ourselves, then we always have a reason not to make that choice.
Yeah.
But if we know that we are, the creators of ourselves, that we were all given free will to make the choices that create our lives, I choose happy.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I think it's the only thing to choose, right? I mean, there are days, right? We all have days. We're human beings. There are experiences, there are obstacles, there are lessons, and there are days. But it doesn't have to stretch on and on and on. We're so lucky that every morning when we get up, we're sort of given this gift of being alive and being awake and having another day. My mama used to say, you can't help how you were born. You can't help what happened to you, but you can help how you choose to live every day. And I think it's true. We get this great, beautiful new opportunity every morning when we open our eyes to make that day anything we want to make it. And it's important not to sort of carry that baggage from all the other days into it, right? And just continue that cycle.
I love the way Dana Wilde puts it. She's a big brain expert. She says there's nothing wrong with your story except that you keep telling it.
Yeah.
And as long as we keep telling why we can't and what happened to us, and this is the reason why it's so hard, and that is simply what we keep creating the reality of our lives around.
But as an author, right, and as a speaker, and for me as a speaker, and as both of us as teachers, sometimes you have to tell your story, right, in a way to show people how here's what I used to worry about. Here were the things when I didn't get it. Now I get it, and please get it as well.
That's storytelling,
right,
but not story living.
Right. Yeah.
What so many people are doing, Sheena, is, well, I can't move on because I was abused when I was 5 years old.
Sure.
We all have our stories. I was raised in a very poor family. My father was a severe alcoholic most of my life, ended up committing suicide. So I watched a very strong mother pretty much raise 3 kids on her own Shocker that I play single mothers and everything.
There are
Yeah.
no accidents, my friend.
So, then my younger brother committed suicide a couple of years ago. We all have our stuff.
Mhm.
But if we allow our stuff to define who we are, then we stay in our stuff instead of creating the lives we want.
I
And
agree.
it's a choice. It's every thought and feeling and belief and perspective. They're all choices that we can make. And when we choose the beliefs and the perspectives and the thoughts that are going to give us what we want, then our lives start taking off.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, and I think, this is just my belief, but I think of incarnations as school, right? This is a teaching planet. Yeah. We're here to learn so that we grow and evolve. The evolution comes from facing down the thing that is difficult and learning to find the happiness and the security in spite of it, right? I mean, that's sort of how you overcome an obstacle, how you move through and you grow.
Sure.
And then you look back
at anything.
Absolutely. And then you look back at that thing and you think, oh, I'm actually glad. I'm happy that I overcame that. And I see how that helped me to grow. And I see how I'm stronger and softer. My mama used to always say, and she had a very hard childhood as well, that everything that happened to her made her stronger, but it also made her softer. Yeah. And I always think about that, how it's not just about toughing up against it. It's about being able to remain open-hearted, even though you've had to go through
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love is the most powerful creative force we have. Unfortunately, most of us don't understand how to use it. So we spend our time trying to get it or give it when we really just need to be it. We just all need to be love.
I agree. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the more you love what you want, the faster you create it.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Yeah. And sometimes putting love into something that's difficult is the best way to evolve past it. I think we spend a lot of time in our life encountering other beings, right? Usually humans that are difficult and challenging. And then we allow that to make us hard. We're angry. How come? Why? We're not allowing the love in. And sometimes allowing the love in is being able to say, I forgive you for who you are. I'm thankful that I'm not in the middle of whatever is going on with you. I'm thankful to have been able to move past that and to have stayed open-hearted instead of it always being this kind of place of resentment that's waiting for you. Oh, that person.
Well, yeah. If you don't forgive and you stay in resentment, they own you.
Yeah.
You don't forgive for them. You forgive for yourself.
Yes.
So that your energy is free and
Absolutely.
your heart can be open and you can move on.
Absolutely. So for you, you were talking about your childhood being difficult and the troubles your father had. And was it ever hard for you? Was it hard for you in the beginning to be honest about your story, to be honest about where you came from?
Nope, never was.
Good for you.
I'm just a freaking open book.
I know, me too, my friend.
You know that.
I do.
Like, here I am, world. No, and I learned very early on in my channeling that we choose our parents and we choose the families we're born into, and we choose them because most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, they very clearly show us what we don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if anybody back during our childhood could point out that, okay, this is what we don't want, so now you know what you do want.
Right.
I want kind and loving and responsible men who love themselves.
Yes.
And also come forward to nurture and care for me and my family. I didn't see that. And it's very clear to me that that's what I want. And ultimately, I ended up creating that. I had to go through a few before I realized I was living the same pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of us do. We just keep thinking the same thoughts every day, feeling the same feelings, which keep creating the patterns of our lives that we ultimately live as our reality.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that the way we see ourselves in the world and our self-esteem and how the world sees us and how we fit in it, totally locked into our brain by 8 years old.
Mm.
So whatever happens to us between conception and 8 years old, we create our belief systems around.
Mm.
And then we build the rest of our lives on those belief systems unless we become conscious enough to go, wow, I don't have to believe that anymore.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
I can choose the rest of my story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so true. And even though we say we're not going to, I'm never going to make the mistakes my mom did. I'm never going to make the mistakes my dad did. We wind up doing that, right? Every single time.
Well, I can tell you why. Because your brain thinks in pictures.
Mm.
So as soon as you say, I'm not going to do something, your brain sees you doing it. If you tell a little 3-year-old kid, don't you touch that TV, he'll look at you and smile and he'll go right over to that TV because that's what his brain sees.
Yes.
So if you're going to change your life, you got to start stating exactly what you want and that you are creating it now.
Yes.
Only in the positive.
Yes. It's so true. Yes. And it's hard, I think, especially when you are connected to a parent. I was very, very connected to my mom, as you know. And even though she would say, do as I say, not as I do, kid. Don't make the mistakes I made. You still, I think, follow that pattern and do the same thing. And sometimes it takes really seeing the mistakes that a parent has made and how it's led to their unhappiness and how you can avoid that by choosing something different. And you're right, it takes a while. It's sort of like we come to the earth perfect souls, right? And then the world sort of tells us, you're not this, you shouldn't be this, do this, don't do this. And then we start on our spiritual path and we have to sort of unravel that and find our way back to when we were perfect souls.
Well, that's why I wrote a children's book that's just come out called Bupalopaloo and the I Loves Me's. And it's the first in a series that's going to teach kids the power of choice and their own creation.
Beautiful. And Bupalopaloo is the bear, right? Do you still have him?
Yeah, it's a series of books based on the bear.
Oh, and are the bears still available?
No.
Oh, the bears were so wonderful.
They may well be soon. There's some things in the works.
Right.
Here's the book.
Oh, look at that. It's wonderful.
The drawings are so beautiful. A man named Vincenzo Lodato, that he's an Italian artist, and he drew, they're just beautiful. And I'm very excited about it. And then my other book, my adult book, Born, just came out also. And it's a whole primer for everything you need to know about the creation process. And Sheena, it's easy. It's so easy to read. It's fun. There's a lot of stories in it. But if you follow the formula in this book, your life will change.
Okay, so let's start with that book. I want to talk about the kids' book later. I don't want to forget about Bupalopaloo and the positive affirmation for kids. But let's talk about that. I was telling you before we started the show today that this is kind of my dream show because it's my I can take everyone I love from my entertainment life and everyone I love from my spiritual life and people that live in both worlds as you do and talk about basically what creation is, right? It's the same channel that brings in the artistic messages, or it's the same channel that brings in the spiritual messages. And oftentimes those two messages are very similar. It's just that you apply them three-dimensionally in two different ways. So talk a little bit about the creation process and in case folks are watching and don't know what that means.
Well, the creation process for me is getting out of the way. It was really interesting. Early in my career, I found my mentor, Charles Conrad. And I had studied with Uta Hagen and Jeff Corey and a lot of the great acting teachers. But when I found Charles, he literally changed my life. And he would teach in his class all about energy. And he taught us a method where you get your energy very, very, very high. And you throw all your energy toward the character or the werewolf or the rabid dog that you're working with. Right?
Sure, yeah.
And what that does is it literally opens up a channel. So pretty much all my work that anybody has ever seen, I didn't break anything down. I didn't work on any parts. I didn't say, where am I coming from or going to? That's the method I've used, which is freedom for an actor. Now, there are many different methods that work for many different people. But for me, the way my brain works, Sheena, I could come to the end of the road and I could go, all right, well, that's got to be west and there's the sun and it's going, so that's got to be east. I guess I better turn left. It would always be the wrong way. Always.
Yes.
When I sat to use my mental mind, I never went the right way.
Yeah.
But when I opened it up to my channel and just was guided, I always hit the mark. And so when Christopher died, my husband, I dropped to my knees and I said to God, I don't want to be pissed off and I don't want to be a victim all my life. I want a way we can heal ourselves. So that's asking, right? And we know ask and you receive. So like that, the first message came to me. I started channeling. I had started my acting studio, as you know. I would go in to teach and I would get downloads of where all my students' blocks were.
Yeah.
And why they couldn't access their emotions, and their lives started to change and they started to work, and then their families wanted to work with me, and now I've got clients all over the world. But that's how it started, is getting out of the way and trusting. I think the biggest thing about channeling is trust. That you have to trust that you're the vessel that it comes through, and trust yourself to get out of the way and bring in the highest information. Now, all my work is based on directing energy. We learned in 5th grade, everything's energy. There's no negative energy. There's no positive energy. Energy is neutral. We all learned that in 5th grade. However, energy must be directed. So if you are not directing it consciously, it will take its direction from whatever gets in its way, like your subconscious or your childhood fears or old limiting religious beliefs that don't serve you anymore,
Yes.
or what was modeled to you from conception to 8 years old. So the more consciously you can choose your thoughts and your feelings and your beliefs, the more your life changes and you create what you want. And that opens up a channel.
Mm-hmm.
So before I work with anyone, I always say, I am asking, which in the original Hebrew means claim or demand. So I am demanding that only the highest information with the highest knowledge and the highest understanding come through for me. That's all I want. Don't bring me anything else.
Yes. Yes.
And it always does. Always.
I agree. Do you think that, because I know for me, the places when I had to really start really coming in, and I wonder if when your husband died, that was a time, right? Sometimes it's grief, sometimes it's for me it was a near death experience from a car accident where you just kind of have to say, okay, that I just give me the messages. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm not. My mama used to always say human beings were just smart enough to be dangerous. I no longer think I know everything, right? I no longer believe that I'm this big apex predator, top of the food chain. Nobody can tell me anything, even God, because I know everything. I now realize that at this place that I'm at, I am ready to hear the messages. And oftentimes I think that comes from grief. It comes from illness. Sometimes it can come from a trauma of some kind, whether that trauma is
can also, Sheena, just come from choice.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to grow spiritually. I'm ready to get out of the way, make me a divine channel. I'm ready for the messages.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Again, you have to ask though.
Mm-hmm.
You have to ask, because in asking means you have already chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And the first premise of creating anything is choice.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I agree 100%. Sometimes it's just you get to a place on your spiritual path where you're like, where do I go next? I want to know what's my next thing. And usually if you ask, spirit will answer. I think that's a very foreign concept to people. Well, why would spirit answer me? And spirit, higher power, universe, God, goddess, great spirit, whatever you want to call, they're not fussy about names.
By the way.
Yeah, they don't care about names. They'll answer to everything. Hey, you. But you have to ask, right? You have to ask for guidance, for the next step, for what you want, for what's your life to be, for the messages to come, and they always do. Whether those messages are from spirit, whether those messages are from a spirit guide or someone you love that has passed that is guiding you.
It's all God. Look.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all God. That's all there is.
Absolutely.
And my definition of God is all thought and all possibility.
Okay.
So all thought and all possibility is available to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's all hanging out right up here.
Yep.
You have to ask for it. And you have to trust yourself enough to get out of the way to hear.
Yes. Yes.
Sure, sometimes it takes practice.
Sure.
Yeah, I started, working with my family and then my students, and and it didn't take very long before I really started trusting myself, because everybody was saying, oh my God, I've been looking for this for years. I've been looking for this answer.
Yeah.
Just did one this morning. She broke down into tears and she said, oh my God, Dee, I would never, ever have put that together. But it had everything to do with her conception and the energy that she picked up at her conception from her father, who was only 15. And it was the core belief that I have to die in some way to be free. Right? And so every time she got right to the point of creating something, she would pull back the birth. And it was unbelievable. It was really quite amazing, astonishing to both of us, frankly.
It's beautiful.
But yeah, it is. And to be able to experience with them the freedom that they take themselves into with the information we give them is, I feel just really blessed, as I know you do too.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I believe when you give a healing, you get a healing, right? When you're in a healing session with someone, you're healing because the healing energy is there and it's affecting you both. And also, as someone is learning something and you're helping them to achieve some enlightenment or closure or healing, you're learning from that and you're feeling that. It's a lot like acting in a way. I always say that every character that I've ever played has changed me, because as you experience someone else's life, you take something from that life, and emotionally and spiritually, you're a little different for having lived inside that person's skin. And I think it's the same thing when you heal others, when you do sessions with folks, you learn from them and you receive the healing as well.
Yeah, we're all one. So whatever is mine is yours, and whatever yours is mine.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with that. For you, is it easy to switch back and forth between to do a session with someone and the next day be on a set doing a film, and then
effortless?
Maybe while you're doing the film, you're taking clients and having sessions with people?
Yep. Effortless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because again, Sheena, I just think I channel life.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, exactly.
So it's I don't have to take time and go into a different voice or
no, sure, me too.
Any of that stuff. I just have a very clear intention. My channel knows that anytime I go into the channel, I only want the highest information and the highest understanding. So I do take time to balance myself. I open my heart, I open my chakras, I straighten my hara line, which is an imaginary line that goes through an ID point up here. And when it's straight, strong, and through the ID point, we stay in our knowing. And when we're in our knowing, we don't go into doubt. So that's a really good thing to do before you channel,
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. When people talk to me about opening the channel, is it hard to open the channel? I mean, I think like when you said you channel life, my friend, I think I keep the channel open a lot. I mean, I just live my life receiving the messages as they come, right? It's not, I don't have to go into a fetal position and talk in tongues, and it's not an agonizing process. It is possible to just leave that channel open and live to receive messages.
Well, I kind of made a deal with my channel when they first brought this to me. First of all, I said, why me? I'm like the girl next door.
Right.
And they said, that's why.
Yes.
Because you can say it in a way that everybody's going to be able to understand it.
Exactly.
And then I said, okay, I'll do this, but you're not using my body. You're not using my brain. You're not going to make me sick to teach me anything. I'm not having any of that.
Yes, me too.
Just give me the messages. I am a removed observer.
Yes.
And you give me the information, right? And it's just worked out great for what, 35 years now?
Yeah.
Can't believe I've been doing it that long, 35 years.
Beautiful. It's amazing. Yes. I agree with you. I mean, I think people have this conception that your eyes need to roll back in your head and it's this very painful thing. And I say the same thing to spirit you do. I say no, nothing's getting, no spirits are moving inside of me. I don't want them in my body. I don't want any agony.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to
I don't
deliver
have
a
any
message.
beliefs in that anyway.
I'm sorry.
Uh, I think the most powerful thing the good book says is, as you believe, it is delivered to you.
Yes, I
So
agree.
it's kind of like the Matrix, the Matrix,
Yes.
original Matrix movie. Pick a door, any door. You can go into that experience.
Yes. Yes.
It's your choice again.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I find that spirit is very receptive to you saying, this is what I can handle as a healer and a channeler. This is what I want, and this is what I don't want. And the answer is kind of like, well, okay, whatever gets you there, right? Whatever gets you there to help more
Energy
people.
follows direction.
Exactly. And
And
when
it says really clearly in the I Am discourses, God, or whatever your term is,
sure,
will not and cannot intercede on your behalf without your clear choice.
absolutely.
And choice is acting or asking.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. When I first started doing this, and it's not 35 years for me, people that I knew that did this work would say, "Oh, you're gonna get tired. Clients are gonna wear you out. You're gonna have days where you can't stand to see them. You're gonna be so exhausted." I know. I don't know what they were talking about, but when I have a day of clients, I feel completely exhilarated afterwards.
Oh, me too.
I feel like I've gone through a spiritual car wash.
I do look forward to my glass of wine at night.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
But me too. Yeah, I don't. My God, doesn't it raise you up? Doesn't it raise your energy up?
Yes, it's amazing.
When you witness people getting their freedom.
Absolutely. Yes.
And moving into their joy. I mean, what better is it than that? Do I hear your doggy?
You hear the doggies, yes, the bird and the cat.
Well, they pick up the energy,
Yes, absolutely.
They definitely pick up the energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
The cat would have loved to have been in here with me today, but then all you'd see in the camera is like a giant cat head that moves around. Because he loves, and without a doubt, whenever I'm doing one of these, he always decides to crawl up and he needs a snuggle. He'll put his arms around my neck and start clinging. So I decided to spare everybody that. But usually, oftentimes when I do like social media lives, I just let him come in here and talk to people and roll around in front of the camera because I love him so much. He's a magic little boy born on Easter Sunday. He'll be one on April 4th.
Well, they help bring in information.
Oh, God, yes.
Freedom is right outside my door waiting for me.
Wonderful. Yep. She's my snuggle buddy. I love her. She's a wonderful snuggly baby. She's fantastic. Yes, I love to be surrounded by animals because they get that, they live in that pure place where they don't allow their mental brain to override what their spiritual and emotional operating systems are telling them to do.
Yes.
They just live in their joy.
Well, that's why, I teach my clients, caught myself there, to not go to their minds because our minds are literally designed to question and doubt.
Yes.
If you really want to know the truth and you really want the highest answer, go to your heart and feel what your heart is telling you, and you'll hear it. And then direct your mind and brain to follow that. And then everything's working together in the highest way.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Yeah. And I think whatever it is that you do that is healing, if you're a doctor, a nurse, you're a therapist, you're a teacher, you should feel exhilarated after you do the thing that you do, because that is really the work of spirit working through you, right? When you do your thing, all of us on this planet, right? We have our thing that we do. Yep. And when you're doing your thing, you should feel ecstatic afterwards. Because
winemakers should be very happy.
I'm sure they are. Yeah. Stomping those
And
grapes.
chocolate makers.
And chocolate makers.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
We're big on chocolate too, aren't we, Sheena?
Yes. You know what? I quit the chocolate. I resisted your entire dessert bar at your Christmas party, which is probably the best part about it. There's so many desserts.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I quit the sugar.
I don't eat as much, but I got to have a little bit of my chocolate.
You know what? I think that's very smart.
Sometime during the week.
Do you know what? I got to have a little carby something sometimes, and a little tea. Although I decaf now, I've become I'm all into this pure vessel thing right now. It's kind of crazy. Just because I found that things were just not making me as clear as I wanted to be, and sugar is a very powerful drug, right? I mean, it stimulates you. I think I was just telling you before we started that I had a little tiny bite of it last night for a friend's party, and I felt like I was on a magical mystery tour. Like everything in my brain just went pow, and I'm like, oh, this is why I ate so much sugar.
Well, whatever you're doing, it's working because you look great.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I'm trying to do happy and find a place where I've released a lot of that. I've released desperation. I've released worry around things. I sort of just wait now for Spirit to tell me what the next thing is, and then that's the thing I do.
You know, my channel says worry is the greatest sin we put against energy.
Absolutely.
Because when we worry, all of our focus goes on what we don't want. And so we're just creating more of that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. What are things, if you don't, because you're an open book, so I can ask you this, what are things that you struggle with spiritually? I mean, what are things, or emotionally, what are things that are still hard for you that you still have to put effort into?
I have to think.
That's good.
Recently, I've just found some thoughts flitting through, and you know how fast they go, and sometimes you don't even know they're there.
Absolutely.
About getting older. And so I sat down and did my work around it, and the channel said, you know, Dee, it's sense memory, because this is about the time your mother started going to see all her doctors.
Right.
And worrying about her health. So it's a sense memory of my little girl, again, back to our brains being locked in, you know, pretty darn early. And what we witness, or what are modeled to us by our families, and subconsciously we just go, oh, well, that's the way it works then.
Yes.
Until we become conscious that we don't want that. Yes. So that's one thing. Another thing is a couple of times in the industry, I was very hurt by people in the industry. And I have worked very diligently in letting that go and trusting again.
Yeah.
Those would be the two. I don't worry about money anymore. I just, you know, you have to love whatever you want. I didn't understand that for a long time. Most of us worry about money because we don't have enough of it. And you're never going to draw it to you. You're never going to be the magnet that it comes to if you don't love money. Most of us are trying to magnetize a new relationship to us by subconsciously saying, well, I don't want the last jerk I was with. Never going to bring in the relationship you want until you start feeling the love and joy around. And I tell everybody to make a list around that list of that complete partner.
Mm-hmm.
Only the things you want, right? The same thing with health. If something's going on with our health, all our focus goes on to fixing it,
Mm-hmm.
which again puts the focus on what we don't want instead of creating and focusing on the health and joy and love of our bodies that will heal them.
I agree.
So, that's a constant thing that you learn to remind yourself of.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a hard one for me too. It's been a road for me to learn to send love to people who have treated me very badly, and
Yeah.
just be thankful for thankful for the good memories, thankful for the lesson, and thankful that I'm no longer involved in that situation.
Yeah.
Because I'm somebody who has like a big open heart that wants to love everyone and treat everyone beautifully. And I never understood why people would return that with betrayal and anger. But, I'm not responsible for
Power.
other people's stuff, right. Power, jealousy, all those. I'm not, and I finally realized at one point in my life that some people just plain resent your joy. If you're a very joyful person, that is a very unsettling thing to somebody who's not connected to their inner core. So I felt for a while that I had to change and not be so joyful so as not to, chap the butt of everyone around me. And then I realized, no, I'm going to just keep being me. And folks that have a problem with that are folks that obviously don't belong in my space, and that's okay. I hope they find that joy in their lives, but I'm not going to cater myself anymore to that. And I think that so now I just live in this unbridled happiness place.
We're the only ones that go down.
Right. Yeah.
They've moved on. They don't care.
Right. Exactly. We're the ones dealing with it. Yeah. And that's been, I think, and it's been wonderful to have been in this time of quarantine when I've had a lot of time where I didn't have to be 20 places every day. And most of my work happened within the home. So I could have some time to sort through the boxes in the closet of my psyche that I hadn't had a chance to do. And to work through some stuff and be able to emerge from this 2-year period kind of a different person who's a lot more balanced and a lot more ready to take on dealing with folks that maybe don't resonate at the same place as me.
Yeah.
And not feel any angst around it, because the more I do this work, the more I realize that I just want to be a pure vessel to do this work. And you can't carry all your baggage around with you, because it's too much to bring into a room when you're healing people.
Lose those stories.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Let them all go. But I thank you for being honest to talk about things that you've been struggling with as well, because I think it's important for folks to know that we as healers are not perfect, that we too are people that have struggles and are working on things.
Oh, the Dalai Lama talks about that all the time.
Right.
I figure if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me.
I agree. Absolutely. So what inspired you to write the creation book?
Well, when the pandemic hit, I got up one day and all the studios had closed. And I went into a panic and I said, oh my God, how am I going to make a living?
Yeah.
And my channel said, Dee, the studios aren't your living. Your consciousness is your living.
Yes.
Get up every day and say, okay, what can I create today? So one day I got up and said, okay, what can I create today? And the first thing I heard was write the book. Not a book, the book.
The book.
And I took a minute and I went, I know exactly what they're talking about. Because Sheena, I've done thousands and thousands of private sessions now. And the most prevalent thing that goes on is people have studied this stuff for years. read about it for years, gone to
Yes.
workshops about it for years, but they don't live it.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know how to live it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this book is about. It's the whole formula, step by step by step. Live these principles and your life will change. It's how
beautiful.
I created ET. It's how I created my daughter. You know,
Beautiful.
specialists told me I would never have a baby.
Really?
33 and my best friend now.
Yep.
This is how I created 3 of my series by living these principles.
Yeah.
Healed myself from several illnesses using these principles. So I absolutely 100% stand behind the statement that I know what I'm talking about because
Sure.
I've applied it and I've lived it.
Mm-hmm. Sure. No,
That's why I wrote the book, because you know, when you know how to be free, you got to share it.
absolutely.
Everybody.
Absolutely. Yes. And I agree with you 100%. So many of my clients as well, they've done the work and they've done the studying, but they haven't applied it into their actual life.
Yeah.
You know, because we kind of, each of us, right, as cliche to say, but as spiritual beings having a human experience, we have our 5D self and we have our 3D self. And we're really supposed to, I think, in each incarnation, mesh those two together so they're perfectly walking hand in hand next to each other, and are very intertwined. Many folks begin to do the spiritual work and it feels really good to be in that place. So they separate that place from their human life. And they're still so very unhappy in their human lives. They don't understand that integrating in everything that you've studied and learned and heard in a session and listened to, and healers that you've worked with, it needs to be applied to you and your everyday life.
Yeah. If you don't put it into action, nothing much changes.
Right.
And the challenge is that everybody thinks by studying it and being really involved in it, they're putting it into action. And
Right.
that's not the case.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, you could spend your life in college, right? And just get degree after degree after degree, and never do anything for the world with any of those things, all of that knowledge you've amassed, never do anything with it. And how is that then helping the world? We're supposed to, I believe, the messages I've received from Spirit is that we're supposed to integrate our spiritual self into our human self, and then find the way that we can take that evolvement and use it to inspire and help others and be a productive part of the world.
Absolutely. I agree.
So you can't just live in your head saying namaste, namaste over and over again. You got to get out there and do the work. And I felt like you, talking about being the girl next door, I felt like you. I'm just a practical Aries girl from Connecticut. I thought nobody's going to want to hear messages from me. I remember one time we were, I got a cast in a pilot about psychics, and we were at this production company, and it was this whole round table with like 7 psychics, and they all had like their, you know, Stevie Nicks-ish dresses and the bracelets and the stars and moons, moo-moos, and the turbans. And, you know, I'm there in a pink Oxford shirt because, you know, that's me. I'm from Connecticut. And I thought, man, I'm like the Marilyn Munster of this group. Nobody's going to think I fit in with these girls. And then the producer, who's so wonderful, said, but that's the thing about you. You're doing the same work, but you look like a normal person. Nobody would think. And I have found that my practicality, some of my clients tease me about my Connecticut. They say I tap into the Pepperidge Farm gods. But, you know,
I love it.
It helps, right? Because there are people that want to hear it from a no nonsense standpoint. There are people that want the direct approach. There are people that are, you know, not looking for me to fly around like Glenda the Good Witch, but to actually, you know.
I get emails about that daily. Gosh, Dee, I love your clarity and your no nonsense way of saying things.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. So real quick before we run out of time, tell me a little bit about the children's book for people that don't know about Bupalupaloo. Did I say that right? Bupalupaloo?
You did, Bupalupaloo. Bupalupaloo and the I Love Me's. This is the first that's going to be a series of books that teach children the principles of creation. This first one is all about a little boy who's very distraught because daddy says he's not old enough, and grandma says he's not tall enough, and mommy says he's not a good enough friend. And Bupalupaloo, the little bear, says, well, you haven't asked the most important person. And he goes, who? And Bupalupaloo says, you. Who do you choose to be? I am strong, and I am, which is the first way we start defining who we are. And the way we define who we are is a direction to our energy to create ourselves that way.
Yes, yes.
So I'm really, really excited about a lot of things that are happening with both the books. I have a lot of brain scientists getting a hold of me, commenting about how right on Born is, and that thrills me.
Wonderful, right? Because it's the melding of spirit and science and spirituality. Yep. That's I think the next phase.
That Christ was teaching brain science.
I believe that, I also believe that Christ was such a metaphysician.
Yeah,
and such a wonderful healer and such a hippie. And so I believe that Christ was teaching brain science as well. Yeah, 100%. You are wonderful, my friend. Let's do this again. Thank you for being here with me. I love you too, sweetheart. I hope to see your face soon and not on Zoom.
Yeah, for sure.
Where can people find out everything about you creatively and spiritually?
My website is iamdwallace.com. WALLACE.
Beautiful. Go there, my friends, and learn more about my fabulous friend and all the wonderful things she's doing for the world. It's an honor to know you, my friend.
And you. Thank you, Sheena.
Thank you, sweetheart. If you missed anything you heard today, visit my website, sheenametalspiritual.com, or find me on social media. I'm at Sheena Metal everywhere. That's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You can find me there. And of course, like I said, my website, sheenametalspiritual.com. And this show, of course, is KGRADB.com. This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. This is the Sheena Metal Experience. I'm Sheena Metal. Till I see you next time, seek peace, my friends. Live in love. Lead with kindness. Embrace unity. Work always to raise that vibration. Know that I love you. And I'll see you next Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. Thank you.